Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. First of all, I would like to say on behalf of HOA's team that we are very glad of being part of this edition of 154 Contemporary African Art Fair. We really hope that this is just the beginning of a long path of partnerships and contributions between us. My name is Igi. I am the HOA founder and CEO. And also I am the twin sister of Igi Lola Ayedun, the artist, which actually is the same person. And just to make a small recap about what HOA is, it started in 2018 as artist studio shared space, and also some situationist interventions that we use it to do in Brazilian art institutions. Then last year, when the pandemic arrived, I just realized the huge gap that exists between Black artists and the national art market, the Brazilian art market. And I decided to get my previous background on business, communication, and luxury industries, and create a gallery by my own. So here today, we have two very important and inspirational figures from HOA's path, Thiago and Carolina. And we will discuss and share with you a little bit about our stunning Afro-Brazil in this super event on your Zoom. And yes, so Carollina Lauriano, researcher and curator of 13th Mercosul Biennial. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome, Carolina.
Thank you, Igi. Thank you for this inviting. I'm so excited to be here and talk about our Brazilian Afro art. And thank you.
And Thiago de Paula, researcher and curator of Trienal de São Paulo. Thank you so much for being here, Thiago. Welcome.
Hey, Iggy, hey, Carol, and hey, everyone who joined us this afternoon. I'm quite excited. I've been following HOA, I've been following Iggy's work and everyone who's around her for the past, I guess, few years. And I have also collaborated with some of the artists that are part of her gallery. I have also collaborated with Carolina in some other situations, and it feels like we are, I don't know, at a bar organizing the next steps. Yeah, next collaboration. So it's kind of like a pleasure to be here with you today.
Yes, so it was 4 years actually, I think 2017, Thiago, in that Melissa project.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a long time already. So Carolina and Thiago, both with an accent. Straight to the point. What is Afro-Brazilian art? And how can we define one of the most important art movements in Latin America? Who starts?
Carol, let's always follow like alphabetic order.
Okay.
I know it's a hard question.
Yes, it's a very hard question because I'm thinking about since we question us after. So the question of the emergence of so-called Black or Afro-Brazilian art can be assessed as long as one studies Africa. So for me, it's about to study Africa and its art and its history related to the export of craftsmen who developed new models influenced at some level with their own maternal base and their subsets miscegenated with the Iberians and Indians, a group with which these craftsmen reformulated the design, art, and technology of under construction Brazil. So I'm thinking about Brazilian Afro art. It's for me, thinking about the past and the future. So in main lines, for me, it's it.
Thiago?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I agree and follow what Carol just presented, just mentioned. There's a thesis by the curator and anthropologist like Hélio Menezes, like that most of you might be also familiar to his work. He was one of the co-curators of his Afro-Atlantic histories, and if I'm not mistaken, like 3 or 4 years ago, like around the same time when Igi and I first collaborated, he published his thesis that is called, I even wrote down the name, Between the Visible and the Hidden, the Construction of Afro-Brazilian Art. And it's like a great text, you know, because it's an endless effort. Because like, I mean, he starts like an endless conversation, like reading back years and years and centuries of what could be Afro-Brazilian art. And of course, I mean, he presents us some possible definitions, but what is probably the most interesting in the text in his thesis is that it is still a quite open concept. You know, of course, one can trace it back from the influence of African people who arrived in Brazil, but at the same time, it's quite tricky to try to answer what it is, you know. And so I guess from my side, I would say that, and again, I'm definitely not one specialist in what one might call African Brazilian art or Black art, but I would say that I'm more interested in what Black artists can do than in defining exactly what they are doing, you know. And so I'm trying to follow, and like I'm close to several of these people, and I'm interested in what they can produce, what their objects or what their works do, what their practice, how their practice reorganize the system, because I think it's a truly complicated effort to try to define it. Although I follow everything that my fellow colleagues have presented, like, I mean, have studied, but I think it's a crazy, yeah, it's quite complicated to try to define or to say what it is, because then we have to, I think we can say what it's not, maybe, it might be easier.
Yeah, might be easier. Yeah, this is something that's interesting to hear from you, Thiago, because the concept of definition needs some historical background to know it. No? And then we know that the Afro-Brazilian art, or art made by African descendants, like whatever you want to call it, had a huge history of invisibilization in the art system. We mean like institutionally or even in the market. So, but when you look at the Brazilian art itself, the Brazilian contemporary art, for me, in my perspective, we can't deny the African presence on it. How do you see, like, how you both see this identity as part of our previous DNA, our ancestry? I mean, how you see this Brazilian identity with and without the African presence?
I can start, maybe kind of following my previous answer. I mean, it's undeniable that the presence of African people, or like our heritage, or what we even reinvented, or like what we understand as African tradition has been reinvented or invented also here in Brazil, in the diaspora. So I think no one would ever be able to deny it, of course. I mean, it is kind of like, yeah, undeniable. I guess it interests me a lot how the presence of Black artists, like, I mean, this new organization or this new dynamic of like Black artists or artists like Black, Brown, Afro-Brazilian artists in the contemporary art scene. I think it's quite interesting. It's quite fascinating. And it might also make one wonders if they were not here before. And of course, we know they were here before. I mean, we could go back, I don't know, to the 60s, and we can think about Maria Auxiliadora, or we can think about Rubem Valentim. We can, I mean, there are several other names who are here. And now I guess going closer to your question, Iggy, what also interests me is to try to understand what happens or what sort of mechanisms that keeps erasing those legacies. You know, I mean, why aren't we all familiarized with Maria Auxiliadora's work? What happened at a certain moment that her production was discontinued? You know, I mean, especially in the 60s, that she quite circulated in several exhibitions, like here in Brazil or in some European countries. But of course, she died young, and that also means something. But why weren't we so familiar with her? Or why aren't we familiar with some artists like Heitor dos Prazeres, for example, who was like almost like a modernist, was in the first edition of Bienal de São Paulo? Why isn't he part of the canon, just like some other modernists? I think this is kind of the questions that that I carry with me. And in a way, we know the answer. I mean, we know that the erasure of these people, of these artists, is connected, deeply connected to the same erasure and violence that kills Black people every day in the country. But I wonder now how our generation can try to break this logic or reorganize this dynamic. You know, what are the conditions that we need to create? What is the work we need to do to avoid that the ones that comes after us, and even ourselves, have to deal with the same fate that the ones that came before us had to, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Carolina, you would like to add something?
I totally agree with Thiago's point of view. I think it's because we are here to discussing here, and so I'm speaking about it. I'm interested, Iggy, to know about how do you think HOA in this scenario? Yeah, because I think it's important to us here to understand how do you think it's not do you think, but do you sorry, I forgot the word, but do you think to position the HOA not only in Brazil but in the whole world, because I think you're thinking internationally. So I speak at my previous question because to think of Brazilian art, Afro-Brazilian art, is think about the future, and for me, HOA is the future now. So I would like to hear you.
Yeah. So at HOA, we are peacefully quite ambitious, but I think that first of all, the main idea of it, when you think like internationally and globally is to create more connections between the largest diaspora in the world, African diaspora in the world, with the global African art market. Because we have, of course, we have so much in common, but what happened with us during like the last 500 years was so hard in terms of cultural genocide, in terms of all this type of oppressions of techniques, tastes, styles, names, celebrities, great artists, bad artists. I mean, the invisibilization process was so huge that when I look at HOA, I think about how can we do something that will not be erased by this white system, by this racist system? How can I do something that can provide to the artists a possibility of continuation? I mean, like as Thiago said, like Maria Auxiliadora, who was like a great painter, a great artist, like her work just disappeared off the public eye, you know? And I really don't want that our generation of artists will be like in the same, I don't know, in the same secret space of something that anyone knows and anyone discusses about and anyone shares with the other people. So I think that I see that as a mission. And for me, that mission, it's about to create connections between the global art market with our national art market, and then provide another perspective of something that it's very, very, very important to understand the whole movement of Black art in the world, you know, because when I look at it, I see a lot of USA, a lot of African countries and Europe. And then I say, okay, but what about us? I mean, how many people knows that we are here, that we are producing what we do as Black artists as well? And how many people knows that Tarsila do Amaral was not Black? I mean, or all these famous white artists, Brazilian white artists who are producing, not producing racialized art, but who are like drawing and painting racialized bodies in their artworks. How people knows that those people are not racialized, that those people are not Black, that this is a case of appropriation and not something genuine. So yeah, I think HOA is about that. I just got a little bit lost in the words, but HOA is about that. It's about to build a path to give us what is from us. You know what I mean? I mean, like, I think you understand. And yes, and this for me, yeah, the most hard thing is that specific logic of seeing white Brazilians being recognized in the world and Black Brazilians being invisibilized. I mean, like, yeah.
I want to follow what you just presented. That is, it's quite interesting. Like, I mean, in a way, when you say that you want to connect the Black and brown artists produced in Brazil with another artist from with another Black artist from the diaspora or from the African continent as well, it's quite interesting because it might also help us to remind some forgotten connections, and also allow you and HOA to figure out different possibilities of sustainability that are not confined to the Brazilian circuit. You know, I mean, what are the other ways of finding funding or to make your gallery sustainable in different space, in different spheres? Like, I mean, how can you create like alliances or bridges with the market in the US or with the market in UK, with the market in West Africa, with like, I mean, how in a certain way, how can you plant seeds and create this different sort of like connections? But I was also curious to hear more. What can, at the moment, what can you do, or how can you support the artists that you are working with? You know, like, I mean, what was the first step from HOA? Because we also know that most of the artists that you're working with, they don't come from middle class or upper middle class background. You know, I mean, some people that are really they're low income people, or they're working class people, or people who don't know if they're gonna get the money to pay their rent. And so, but at the same time, I know that HOA is struggling also, you know, to pave ways. And so I'm kind of interested in understanding, how do you balance, or like, I mean, how do you find the balance? If you do.
I'm finding that. Gonna find this balance. Yeah, I think yeah, this is something that it's important to discuss when you're talking with a global audience, is that the connections between class and race in Brazil. Because when you go to Europe, the class subjects not always are connected to the race subjects. I mean, of course, that we have a lot of immigration and people from Africa who don't have like social conditions to live in Europe. We know all these stories here. But when you are discussing in the art sphere, it's not everyone that consider the class subject and the class problem inside a race problem. When you look at to the Brazil, and then you look to a white-dominated art system, you understand immediately that, unfortunately, being a Black artist, it's the same thing of being a poor artist. I mean, like, because this is bigger than the fact of doing art or something. I mean, people, as you said, like, most of the artists that I work do not have access to universities. They don't live in good housing conditions. I mean, there's a lot of basic bases that are very urgent in our group of artists, in this generation of artists. And then when I look at that, I think about something that actually I'm overthinking about it, which is like a type of endorsing collectionism. I think this word do not exist. I mean, we Brazilians invent a lot of isms for a lot of words, sorry, but endorsing collectionism, which means when you are collecting a Black artist from Brazil, you are not just getting a beautiful painting and putting it in your house or in your institution, or just being connected with this research. When you collect an artwork from a Black artist in Brazil, you are endorsing their life. You are helping them to give more conditions to their family, to their selves, to produce more work, to develop better their own research. You are actually saving lives. I mean, I don't like this savior slogan, but this is something that people should know, that collecting Black artists from Brazil is not just about, oh, I like it, I want it, thank you. No, it's about to contribute for a preservation of a movement, for a preservation of an identity, for a preservation of African Brazilian presence, and being part of a chain. I mean, like a chain of needs, which comes from, I don't know, so the rent of that guy until the food of that guy, or need for their families and everything. So this is something that when I am talking with my collectors or the collectors, I'm putting it very, 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 very sharp, like in a sharp position, because some people think that it's all, but is that a type of humanitarian work then? No, it's not humanitarian, because this is work. I mean, it has quality. It has like thought and research and newness. This is not humanitarian, but it's important to understand that this is a part of a chain that will provide a longer life for this artist and a longer life for this community and a longer life for what we represent as Afro-Brazilian people. So yeah, I try to get my balance like this, you know, like discussing and very in an open source. I mean, like at HOA, we have another system of shared sales. I mean, we don't take the majority of the money from the artist. The money take 60% and we take 40%. And also, we are very, very, very into resale rights laws, because we really want that this work becomes sustainable for the artist. So yeah, we have some internal systems to connect all the places of this gallery to make it being longer and bigger than a Black Lives Matter wave, you know, and to look at it in 20 years and see that there is many artists from some generations who came from that, and they are very good in their own skin. You know what I mean? Like it's a Brazilian expression, like being good in their own skin, or French, but so yeah. But I am the moderator here. Why are you making me questions?
No, I thought I could try some.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But this is something that I was thinking too, and I would like to ask you, because when you are dealing with collectors and foreign collectors or collectors who are not close to Afro-Brazilian identity, we understand that there are few works or a lot of works that they are more than beautiful. They can teach you, they can give you some new perspective and knowledge about something. I would like to, I mean, I don't know if you feel comfortable about it because she's a huge artist, but for me, the best example at HOA.
Wow.
Is it me? No, I guess.
No, I think it's Igi.
Let's just wait some seconds.
Yes.
She might come back.
Maybe she had a trouble with her connection.
I'll just read. There's a question here, like while we wait her.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe she had trouble.
Maybe we can just go. There are two questions here.
Yes.
In the chat. Maybe we can try to answer them while we wait for.
Let me
it's
see.
It's a question by Josette Bailey. I hope I pronounce it properly. Josette Bailey, she asks, how do we African Americans familiarize ourselves with Afro-Brazilian artists of the past and present when we are not in Brazil? Carol, você quer?
Se você quiser responder, eu tô formulando aqui, tô pensando.
Tá. Okay. So, Josette, I guess at the moment, it's not super complicated to do some research online. Of course, I mean, it might be tricky, but there are some institutions that have been doing an interesting work with this memory. And so I think you could easily find some names if you reach on Museu Afro-Brasil webpage, especially if you're working or interested in more historic work. Of course, not all of course, these institutions are not selling institutions. I mean, they're not galleries, they're institutional spaces, but you can get some sort of like you can get familiarized with their names and then later move on. Pinacoteca São Paulo is also an interesting space to find names and to understand a little bit more about the history, and even MASP. Most of my understanding, or I'm more familiar with artists, like contemporary artists that live, Black contemporary artists that live in São Paulo, Rio, some of them in Salvador. There is also something that is important to mention, that both me and Carol, we live in São Paulo, and so
Yes.
the way how we see the circuit, or how we look to the market, or how we look to the institutions, is really based on the city that we live in, and that kind of where we were raised. And maybe if you have a conversation with artists, with Black curators from Salvador, or from, maybe São Luís do Maranhão, their answers might be completely different from ours. And there are few emblematic catalogs or exhibitions that can help you to navigate a little bit. Oh, because there's a second question that she asked, how to know more about Black Brazilian artists, and not, and so that we gravitate to them and not to the white ones. I guess this also takes us to a very complex and complicated question, that is the difference how we deal with race in Brazil and how we do with race in the US. Oh, she's back.
Hello,
Welcome back, Igi.
Whoa, I was in Neptune and then now I'm here. I don't know what's happening with my connection. Sorry about that. Oh my God, good energy.
No, don't worry, don't worry. We just took the chance to start to answer. But we can continue from where we stopped when you left.
I mean, I don't know what was the last thing that you heard from me.
Yeah, oh wow! Now you're killing me.
Yeah.
Yes. I forget because we start to answer here.
Yeah, but I remember what I was saying is that there's a lot of works that teach us a lot, that engage us a lot, that give us another vision about the perspectives of a Brazilian art. And I was telling us about Jota Mombassa's work, who is like a great name of Black conceptual art. And I was asking you to share your impressions about Jota Mombassa works, who is one of the artists that we are presenting at 154 right now.
Okay, like Carol, do you want to?
No, I'm thinking about sorry, I forgot the name. Sorry, let me see here. It's Josette is saying. I'm thinking about what's the biggest challenge that you both see, Thiago and Igi, and I can answer it too, for the world to understand the Afro-Brazilian arts. And since you both had international experience, and how do you see these issues? Because Josette, we are talking about the difficult of the foreign to know about the Afro-Brazilian scenario. So I think it's a good question to think about.
Yeah, I mean that first of all, it's important to say that since I don't know, the past 5 or 7 years, we didn't have those types of international platforms before. I mean, not just galleries, because I know that I am the first one, but even how the institutions, like the Brazilian art institutions and the
international institutions are like connected to Black Brazilian curators to give them, to offer them more perspectives about Afro-Brazilian art. And also, when you talk about like the editorial documents about it, I mean, books and I don't know, like theses and this thing. So I think your generation, you, Carolina, Thiago, and Elio, Gianni Lima, Jota Mombasa, so many, and even like Virginia de Medeiros, there's many names of people who are working very hard the past 7 years to create something that we can share with the world. So yes, I think this is the hardest, the platforms, the connections, the funding, the possibilities to organize. I mean, like we have, can you imagine like a huge exhibition of Dalton Paula somewhere else outside Brazil, and even like other artists like new girls like Luisa Ariadne, new boys like Peggy, Marlon. I mean, I think that we have a lot of art, but we don't have many platforms and people interested to connect with what we are doing here. So yeah. Thiago, are you still there? Thiago,
yeah, sure. No, sure, I'm here. What you said, it's about the lack of platforms or institutions. It's quite true. I mean, there are a lot of people doing work. I mean, artists all over Brazil. I mean, Black artists all over the country who are producing their work, but might face hard time to find institutions, curators, or platforms, like places where they can display, where they can sell, where they can make their work circulate somehow. This is definitely one of the biggest challenges. I guess that the language is a barrier when I guess I can hear myself.
I don't know. You have an echo at your sound.
I think that the lack of Black artists who navigate, and I would say navigate because just say that one speaks the language, it's complicated. But I think that the lack of, because of how, like, I mean, some very specific issues on how English is taught in schools here, how people get closer to English. I guess the English language is a barrier and kind of produce some impossibilities, or not impossibilities, but produce some troubles of access in the country. And I think that's something that we one day have to talk about and try to understand how to reorganize this barrier, you know. I mean, and most of the artists, especially young artists that I've been working with, I'm kind of like constantly mentioning the importance of finding ways or figure out solutions to get closer to the language or to the English language, because it's also it's a great tool of connection with different Black communities all over the globe. You know, it doesn't matter exactly where. And also, it's quite important to always remember that English doesn't belong to the US. I mean, you can use it as a tool to make your work circulate. And before, I guess, when Igi disappeared, she was talking about Jota Mombasa's work. Jota, it's quite fascinating. I think their work produced some issues and questions, some sort of like essential notions of race, some essential notions of gender, of sexuality. I think that's kind of the where she departures from, and her work has every month, or I don't know, every year become more and more opaque, in a certain sense, that it carries several layers of secrets You know, I mean, when you think that she's doing this and she's doing that, when you think she's a performer, she's a writer, and as Igi says, like, I mean, her, I mean, we can call her like maybe as a post-conceptual artist, you know, and it's really interesting how she navigates through Brazilian history and connects in a global art scenario as well.
Mm. Yeah, I think I agree. Like, I agree a little bit when you say about like language barrier, but not that many, because there's a lot of African countries who are not English speakers as well, and I feel that they are much more organized than us, and I think 154 is a proof of it. Turia is from Morocco, and Moroccan people do not speak English, so but I think this is something that I think comes back to everything that we said in the beginning about this invisibilization process of colonialism in our cultural scene. I mean, like, the colonialism, of course, is not just about like military power or, I don't know, like money power and this stuff. It's also about culture. It's also about the way that people see Afro-Brazilian art as something that really matters. I mean, like, we have like major institutions, major galleries putting white Brazilians art in front of everything that we did, of everything that we contribute for our nation. I mean, and putting ourselves only as a cultural popular manifestation of something like carnival. I mean, like, if you look at carnival, you can't deny that this is a manifestation of pure art. This is a manifestation of African diaspora pure art, of a performance, dance, colors, harmonies, compositions, dispositions, subjectivity, history, concept, everything. This is carnival. I mean, but why carnival is not celebrated as Oscar Niemeyer building? Why all the arts that are made like that are made with Afro-Brazilian religions, substance and essence are not celebrated, like Tarsila do Amaral or the Tropicalia? Why people decide to celebrate Tropicalia around the world with Caetano Veloso and Mutantes and all this movement, and not the art from Afro-Brazilian religions? I mean, I think that this is something that we are suffering since 500 years, and this is something that people around, that Black people around, or collectors of African art should know, that it's more than just know something. When you know it, when you get it, when you collect it, you are endorsing, you are preserving. So I'm just repeating myself, but yes, this is also what I think, you know, like, we need to analyze it very well, why we are not that celebrated, if everything that is great in Brazil is touched by a Black hand. Music, food, culture, I mean, everything.
Totally. I guess that you brought it quite well, this notion or this idea that the contemporary art scene or contemporary art market in Brazil, in a certain sense, it's just like a mirror of how unequal the country is. You know, a country that has been disguised as a very democratic or very equal in terms of race, and through these years has been murdering, erasing, ignoring the calls of different groups in the society, like especially mostly Black and indigenous artists. I totally follow you.
Yeah, and there is also something, yeah, of course, that we have like this systemic environment, but also when you're talking about artwork itself, this is why I asked about Jota, is because there is many works and many productions who are like incredible, connected to our heritage as Afro-descendants people. I mean, when you look at Kelton's works, like his research, it's around Yoruba teachings. I mean, this is about Nigerian presence in Brazil. And he develops an entirely research of paintings inspired and made it with these teachings that he knew from his Afro-Brazilian religion. And this is something that I think that people should understand as well. It is not just about like we are putting more black bodies in the figures. There is also some kind of subjectivity of the African descendants who are very present in the artworks of these artists, these contemporary artists too. Yes. Don't you think?
Yes, it's something. It's quite something Liza Amaral do in her work to put the religion. So it's completely abstract, and it's very interesting to see how the new generation is doing with this ancestrality and transforming it in the future, you know.
Yeah, connecting to yourselves and bringing it back, no?
Yes.
Yeah, completely. So I think we have a few questions here. No? You answered a lot, or all these questions we have to answer yet?
No, we haven't answered. I think we just answered 2, and there's like a comment from someone following your thoughts. It's a comment in Portuguese, like from Igor. I mean, there are a few questions we have to answer, or like some of them are more comments. But I guess from Huda Mustafa on, we haven't read.
Okay, so I've lost my last question is, my first question is from Newt Pole, so I've lost everything that was before. So Olivia, please, if you can like cut and like Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V this here, please, just to be easier for me to follow the previous questions, it will be amazing. But now here at Newt Pole, we have the question, who are some new emerging Afro-Brazilian artists should we be looking at? Oh my God. There's so many.
Yes.
There is so many. Just to explain, Paul, I mean, like HOA is a gallery which represents like 14 artists, but we have a network of more than 40 artists and curators around the country. I mean, there's a lot of people. Of course, that now we have few names getting some international exposure, like Maxwell Alexandre and Sonia Gomez, for example. But also we have a lot of underrepresented artists who are producing great works, and artists who are also more connected with the institutional scene, like Castiel Vitorino Campos, and I don't know, we have so many names, and we have Jota Mombasa, we have Musa Michele Matiusi, we have the Trovoa group, which are a great collective of women of colors, like all artists, and it's amazing, like a lot of women's artists from all the country. We have Liza Amaral, who is doing great success right now in our gallery, and also Marlon Amaro, Kelton Campos. We have Juliana dos Santos, who has like a great research on blue too. I mean, Eloisa Aradini, who is like a very prodigy of our generation. There's so many people. Suggest that you email me and I can send you a list with a few names. So you would like to recommend some artists, Carolina and Thiago?
Say it again, please.
Would you like to recommend some artists for Newt Pole?
I just wrote in the chat Juliana dos Santos, Rebeca Carapia, that I also you mentioned, but as 154 just wrote down here. I guess, like, I mean, a great idea would be to visit your webpage, because there are these, I mean, it's a great way to map the scene, you know, and then from those names, you can get to different places. You know, I mean, I guess the arts that you're working with, they're quite interesting, and it can help you to, it can help anyone to get at least a first notion of what's going on.
Yeah, and also look at the diversity inside the diversity itself, because Brazil is a huge country. So the artistic background from an artist is from São Paulo is not the same of an artist is from Bahia and not from Minas Gerais, and all of these are how can I say, like African roots during the slavery period, and all of this you can reach, you can see different types of identities connected to a diversity of identities that exist inside Africa. So yes, this is interesting too. Igor Weiss, he said about the movementations of the art market is not just about money, but also the constructions and the reconstructions of subjectivities and possible futures connected to Black practicals and memories. So he asks us how we deal with that in the researches that we work with. I mean, I'm not curator, so I think it's better for you.
Let me just check it again.
Yes, me too.
Okay, so Igor, I mean, although I have been in contact or with collaboration with some galleries like here or in other contexts that I have worked with, my main work or my main research is not basically in commercial galleries. You know, I have a close conversation with Igi, but we have never really worked together in this sense. You know, I mean, I follow the artists that you represent, or I follow some of the conversations, but I'm not truly attached to this commercial phase of the circuit. I have been working mostly with public institutions or non-commercial institutions, and that's how I navigate, and that's how I organize my research. I guess they are, I mean, in a certain sense, they are not properly two different worlds, but they have different approaches, I would say. And it's not about saying what's better, what's not better, especially if we're having this conversation here in this platform. It's more to understand how to organize your work according to where you are, or how can you better work according to where you are, and, you know, according to the context, according to the situation, and of course always trying to do that with a lot of ethic and respect for people's work and interests. But in a nutshell, I guess that one, or like a person always needs to know where he or she is working and with whom, you know, and so from that on you can try to map like a landscape of how you want to engage with, you know.
Yes, I totally agree, Thiago, because I'm trying to do this with my works and research, and how to I don't know how to say, but how to connect these both institutions or the art market with my researches, and something like it's not only about me, but only about all of the artists that I work and want to connect. So I agree with you. Yes.
Yeah. Here we have like Josette Bailey saying, first of all, giving me her contact. Thank you so much. Gonna email you later. And then also saying that I would say that you need a larger group of Afro-Brazilians that have to push these areas. Brazil, from my perspective, is not democratic where Afro-Brazilians are concerned, which is why your voices are not heard. This is a very, very interesting topic because we are previously discussing it, like me, Carolina, and Thiago. And the thing is, like, the social barrier, the class barrier, make harder to us to develop Afro-Brazilian, a range of Afro-Brazilian collectors, a range of Afro-Brazilian directors, museum owners, or galleries and everything. So this is why these questions is so sensible, because when you look to the US, you have a huge community of Black people in arts growing up every day. Same in Europe, same in Africa. When you look into Brazil, we have this class boundary that are not helping ourselves to push ourselves. No, Thiago has a great theory about it, to educate a new generation of Black collectors and how important it is. Would like to share, Thiago, please?
No, I mean, it's also part of a joke, but I guess the class barrier and the class issues are kind of like, I mean, maybe the main topic when we are discussing how Black art or Black Brazilian art circulates in the country. You know, I mean, due to like, I mean, historical problems or like, I mean, inequality. I mean, if inequality between Black and white folks, it's always dramatic everywhere in the Americas. I would say that in Brazil, it just becomes like a nightmare, you know? And so there's a very small number of Black collectors, Black and brown collectors in the country, at least as the numbers I'm concerned about. You know, I mean, there's like a huge group of white collectors, and these white collectors have been organizing the scene. They have been, I would say, supporting a very problematic canon. And so I often mention this to Igi that, like, I mean, we kind of like need to figure out possibilities of reorganizing this conversation once we have a higher number of Black collectors also in the country. And if this is going to take I mean, I wish I could just like reach my phone and call like Neymar or some other Black soccer players, because there's a lot of money there, but that's not really the case at the moment. So that's also how or why we keep saying of the importance of reorganizing the connections or the networks among collectors in the US, like Black collectors in the US, Black collectors in the UK, Black collectors in the African continent, because might be a way to reorganize the circulation of practice, you know, and of support, of fundings, like, I mean, restructuring these networks, you know, because, and also, and again, that's why I kind of repeat on the importance of like kind of learning. I mean, it's very tricky, but because I have a crazy relationship with the language, but learning English, because might be a gate to reach some of these people, might be a gate to foster the dialogue or the communication with these different communities. And English is the tool for this at the moment.
Yeah. So, Carolina, something to say about cultivating a new generation of Afro-Brazilian collectors? I think in 10 years we will have a huge growth.
Yes, I hope so. So I really don't know, because I'm thinking about the education, it's something to considerating, because when we talking about the issues about the difference about the classes, I think the education is one of the important thing to consider it, because when you think about the white people and studying in schools, who the people learn about art since the young, and when we think about the public education, I think the huge Black people are studying, me as well. I study at a public school, so I think we need to think about education since the base to. So how can I say? Because I think to forming these Black these new Black collectors, it's to think the art in the basis. Yes. To think how to art is important to our development, to understand the world, and art it's about money. How something I can buy a car, or I can buy an art. So maybe we can say to these people it's important as as important to buy an art as to buy a car. It's tells something to the world. So I think a lot about this issue and how to educate this base.
Yeah, we have another question here from Ingrid Lamas on this topic. Is Instagram and other social networks a possibility of cutting through these class barriers which you mentioned, or does it equals the system creating new kind of white/privileged bubbles? In your experience, was Instagram an important tool for getting heard, or was it just consequence of making yourself being heard? I'd love to hear you guys talk about how the online community can rebuild artwork itself, or even deny its ways of working and silencing minorities, giving space and fortune only to a restricted group of people. So yeah. Ingrid, I think the internet it's a great tool against these boundaries. My experience it's a little bit different because I come from communication background. So before got some followers on Instagram, I was working for major newspapers and magazines in Brazil. So my voice was always somewhere, but not under my own name, under the name of the newspaper that I was working for. But I know that the way that I am building HOA, it's completely attached to the way that I develop my communication on social media and on the internet, because I use that to connect with new artists, to discover the work of new artists. I spend a lot of time of my year in Europe, so sometimes, most of the times, I use the social media to get into an artwork from an artist from Bahia, which I could not see here in São Paulo. So these connections are very important, but I feel that when you're talking about international reach, we get into this English speaking boundary too, because like I communicate myself in my Instagram in Portuguese. So yeah, of course, I will not, even if I live in London, I will not be completely connected with British English speaker people. And yeah, but I think that internet, it's a way to build another not just vision, but another system for art. Next month at HOA, we will announce that we will be the first Brazilian gallery to sell NFTs. And this is thanks to internet. I'm a very digital person. I truly believe in the way of these new technologies can provide more trackable security to artists' rights. But I think that we have visibility in the sense of visibility. I mean, see something, being viewed. But I think the problem in our community in Brazil, and not just Brazil, but the Afro-Latin community is structure. I think this is what we miss most, because we have the knowledge, we have the studies, we have the artworks, we have our researches, but we don't have structure to develop it. This is the hardest point, in my opinion. I don't know what you think, Thiago, Carolina.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, there's a terrible problem of I mean, when we're talking the lack of like Black institutions or Black artistic institutions, you know,
Yes.
there are plenty of artists, but there's a lack of institutions who are truly interested in providing ground support for these young artists who are beginning, you know, instead of some sort of exploitation of their value while they are like, I mean, new in the circuit, new in the market. And I guess this also connects with what Carolina was saying about education, of the importance
Yes.
of a stronger educational system, because I mean, the quota system that was implemented by the state early in the 2000s had total influence on this number of Black and Indigenous students who could access the universities, the most prestigious universities in the country.
Yes.
And that for sure reflects the number of artists who are now able to produce and able even to organize some sort of like criticism to the white institutions, to white Brazilian institutions. But at the same time, as Igi said, there's a lot of like research. There's a lot of like a very interesting practice, like cutting edge practice, but there's a lack of infrastructure, you know, because there's a lack of funding, and like, I mean, there's a lack of money in these communities.
Yes.
No, I totally follow you, I guess. Yeah.
Carolina?
No, I totally agree with you both, because we said I think everything about. So to finish, Josh, I think I really believe that internet is a great platform for voice to emerge, because especially in Brazil, when we have a few galleries, institutions, and well, all of this scenario that not welcome artists, curators, and other Black agents. So internet, it's a platform to this voice, to say something to the world. So I really believe in the internet as a platform to raise voice, to connect, and to build his own I don't know how to say, his own voice, his own, wow, I think it's so.
Yeah. So someone has any question? We are, yeah, we arrived until the end. It's already like 3:16, so quite late. So I would like to thank you both, Carolina and Thiago, for being here. We would like to make a last announcement or a last sentence of something.
Oh, I would like to thank you, Igi, and 154 to disinvite. It was a great afternoon with you, and thank you for all of stay here and talking with us. It was very nice. Thank you.
Thiago.
Hey, Iggy, thank you again. It was fun. It was nice to talk together. Always inspiring to see how you're organizing your ideas. Carol, again, super nice to see you here. And thank you for everyone who came, who asked the questions. And these questions, although we answered, I guess, most of them, these answers are never really finished. I guess they are, if they are asked to us maybe in 1 month from now, we might be able to bring different answers or different perspectives. I just believe that what is still quite fixed and still a reality is the necessity of creating connections beyond the Brazilian context, with different actors of the Black diaspora in the world, as a way to make this practice more sustainable and not only some sort of fuzz that will fade within a year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Thiago, Carolina, and Carolina with an accent. Thank you, 154, for this invitation. Thank you for this edition. Would like to say for everyone who is present here, to start to think, how can we celebrate African art, ignoring the largest African diaspora in the world? I mean, let's think about Black Lives Matter abroad. Let's think about Pan-Africanism, artsy practicals, to being together and supporting each one's, because you are our heritage and we are part of what you are. So would like to thank you, Camille, Olivia, Paula, Shukran Bezafturia also, and thank you so much. That's it. Goodbye. Bye.